Hello all dear students, you are welcome in Literature Simply. Simple way to learn literature and language. Dear students, this is #17 History of English Literature, and in this video we are going to cover minor poets of Puritan Age. This is Puritan Age part 7. So dear students, as we discussed about all authors and writers in Puritan Age, in this video we also going to talk about minor prose writers of the Puritan Age. Now friends, when we look at the Puritan Age, we find there were abundance of material, there were many poets, there were many authors who wrote a lot in this period. And dear students, as this period gradually grows, we find the material also gradually grows. The writings, the writers, the poets also grew a lot there. So dear students, in this part we will talk about especially six prose writers of the Puritan Age. Before starting these writers, let's talk about first what was the condition of writing there in Puritan period. As we said that there were abundance of material available, and here we have a remark of Burton. He says about this period and the material available for writers or poets to write on. So let's read that remark and then move to the writers one by one. Burton says in his Anatomy of Melancholy, "I have new books every day, pamphlets, currentos, stories, whole catalogues of volumes of all sorts, new paradoxes, opinions, schisms, heresies, controversies in philosophy and religion. Now come tidings of weddings, maskings, entertainments, jubilees, embassies, sports, plays, then again, as in a new shipped scene, treasons, cheatings, tricks, robberies, enormous villainies in all kinds, funerals, deaths, new discoveries, expeditions, now comical, then tragical matters." So dear students, this was the scene of Puritan Age. There were abundance of material, there were a lot of writers, a lot of poets who composed on different types of matters, different types of subjects, different types of topics. As you see here, Burton says aptly, there were no scarcity of material. Many things were available there, and writers took benefit of all these things. They wrote on different types of aspects in the society. And here we have selected six such writers, prose writers, who wrote and still today who have some value in literature, and still today they read. Here very first we have Robert Burton. Robert Burton was a clergyman, a very popular clergyman, and he was famous for his book called Anatomy of Melancholy. So his book Anatomy of Melancholy became very popular in those days. Friends, let's talk about his mental state. He was suffered from hypochondria. Hypochondria is nothing but a mental state in which a person thinks that he or she has some serious illness, but in reality it doesn't. So this was the condition of Robert Burton, but still he wrote. He finds some solace in the bargemen who swear there on the river. He went to the river, there sat calmly, and he saw the river. He looks at the river and finds some solace there. And then he wrote about different types of topics. And here we have his famous book called Anatomy of Melancholy. So if we talk about Anatomy of Melancholy, we find that this is especially a medicine book, or we can say that it is a medical treatise. And in this medical treatise he talks about different kinds of things. For example, he talks about medicine, he talks about the scientific temper, he also talks about the quotations, and he also gives references of great men who worked on this particular area of medicine. Friends, if you look at this Anatomy of Melancholy, we find that it is a hodgepodge, a mixture, a khichdi of quotations and references, and hence common readers think that it is very difficult to understand and difficult to read also. But still it became popular, and still some scholars read it, study it for the sake of understanding, and they also explain from that particular book. So this is the contribution of Robert Burton to the Puritan Age, and his Anatomy of Melancholy is a noteworthy treatise in medical. Still today some scholars find that useful. So this is the first writer, first minor prose writer we discussed. Second, we have Sir Thomas Browne. Sir Thomas Browne was a physician, a doctor, and in those days there were some wrong medical practices were going in the society. Sir Thomas Browne talks against those medical practices in the society, and hence he wrote very fine books on the same topics, on the same matter. So his scientific views were ahead of his time. He think what the society thought, ahead of the society, ahead of the practices which were there in the society, wrong medical practices, and hence we found that his religious views also were liberal kind of views. He is known for his three best works. Very first we have Religio Medici. Religio Medici means religion of a physician, and in this Religio Medici he talks about the bias regarding the medicine or the best practices of a physician. He also puts the subject without any bias, without any prejudice before the society, and hence this book become very popular in those days. So this book had been written with great charm and manner, means it has great subject matter and also has great style to follow, and hence still this Religio Medici is read by many people in England. Second, we have Vulgar Errors. The Vulgar Errors talks about the combination of scientific and credulous research in superstition. In those days we find there were superstitious people, there were superstition in the society, and he talks this superstition here in this book called Vulgar Errors. You can look at the title and understand what would be there in this book. Third book he wrote is Urn Burial. Now urn burial is nothing but it is a study, an inquiry into the different types of methods of burial. Generally this book has a very good style, a very good content, but still this book has not been read by many people as Religio Medici has been read. So this is about Sir Thomas Browne. We can understand the contribution of Thomas Browne through these three books he composed on different topics. Now let's move to the next. Number 3, we have Thomas Fuller. He also was a clergyman and he wrote 4 books. Very first we have The Holy War. Second, The Holy State and the Profane State, in which he talks about different types of examples to be followed in life and the examples to be avoided in life. Basically he is talking about the historical examples, and this piece is the biographical record of Thomas Fuller. We find biographical information he included in this book. The Church History, it is not a scholarly work of Thomas Fuller, but it is read by many people due to the quality of entertainment. It entertains the readers, and hence readers read this book very much. And the last book he composed, here we have The Worthies of England. In The Worthies of England he is talking about the great men of England in those days. So here we have an account of the great people born there in England. So this is about Thomas Fuller and Thomas Fuller's contribution to the Puritan Age. We have next number 4, Jeremy Taylor, and Jeremy Taylor is considered the greatest of clergymen in England. He set some noble ideals for the society, and he is the man of ideals. He set some ideals in his life and he followed those ideals, and hence he is very aptly called as the Shakespeare of divines and a kind of Spencer of Cassock or in Cassock. So these adjectives were applied to Jeremy Taylor, and these adjectives suit him well. So he composed some works. Number 1, The Liberty of Professing. This book talks about the tolerance in religion. So he emphasizes tolerance in religion. So there were writers, there were poets who also talked about the tolerance in religion, but they had to face crisis in their life because of their views, extreme views. In the same way, here we also find that in The Liberty of Professing, he talks about the tolerance in religion. Second, we have the rules and exercises of holy living, and third, we have holy dying. These two books combined in one volume also are very famous in England, and still today we find that these books were kept in libraries and people read them. People take interest in reading such kind of books in England still today. So this is the contribution of Jeremy Taylor, and Jeremy Taylor should be considered as the greatest of the clergymen in England who set some noble ideals for the people. Next, number 5, we have Richard Baxter, and Richard Baxter is considered as the busiest man of his age because he composed many works. More than 170 works had been composed by Richard Baxter. He had influence of Bunyan and his writing, and the same kind of things we found in his writing of Richard Baxter. He was a poor person, he was uneducated, but still he formed a great influence by his speech on common people, on common masses in England. He was a powerful orator in those days, and hence he could write very well, he could write extensively. And here we have his two works very famous. We have The Saints' Everlasting Rest and A Call to the Unconverted. So these two books still are read in England. They are very famous, though the other books have gone into the oblivion of common people. We do not read the other books composed by Richard Baxter, but still we have these two books on the shelf of reading. The last minor writer of this period, the Puritan Age, here we have Izaak Walton or Izaak Walton. He was a small tradesman of London, he was a fisherman, and he composed some works. Among these works we have two famous works. The first is Lives. In Lives he talks about different types of poets like Donne, Herbert, Walton, Taylor, etc. And in his next work, which is based on fishing, a very popular book he composed on fishing, and we found his experience of fishing in this book. So The Complete Angler is the book which is widely read by many people on the subject of fishing because he was a fisherman. So this is Izaak Walton's contribution to the Puritan Age. Now dear friends, we have talked about here 6 minor prose writers of the Puritan Age. You tell me which writer you liked the most. Please comment below in the comment section, and also tell me about your experience of learning these videos. So we will meet in the next video. Till watch videos on literature simply, watch this series on history of English literature. Like this video, share this video among your friends, and subscribe to Literature Simply, and don't forget to press the bell notification icon. Thank you very much. Let's meet in the next video.